Welcome to Renegade Thinkers Unite, featuring the sharpest minds in marketing, inspirational case histories, and weekly insights you can apply to your business. Find out why top CMOs rank this podcast among their favorites. Now, here's your host, Chief Marketing Renegade, Drew Nizer.
Eating your own dog food is an expression that is used so frequently in the tech industry that it has been shortened to just dog fooding. Its origins are debated. Some connect it to the CEO of Calcan, who actually ate a can of his product at a shareholders meeting. Like, ooh, ick. Others think it was from Lauren Green, an Alpo commercial back in the 70s, when he said, "Hey, I feed this to my own dogs." Over the years, the tech community has polished this up, suggesting that they drink their own champagne. You can look at my Fast Company article back in 2011 with John Miller, then of Marketo. And for some stupid and unexplainable reason, whenever I hear a new version of that, I get all excited. Which brings us to our guest today, Leela Srinivasan, the CMO of SurveyMonkey, a role she assumed in April 2018. Now, SurveyMonkey, I'm assuming most of you know, is a leading platform for fielding surveys. We've been using it at Renegade for our clients pretty much since it was founded in 1999, and most recently used it for some really helpful research for my next book. It's an incredibly easy and powerful tool, and for the record, Leela is not paying me to say that, but I digress. Anyway, I did in my pre-interview with Leela, she talked about how she'll be spending 2019 devising new ways to bring her team and entire organization closer to their customers, concluding with, drumroll please, "We have the luxury of eating in our own restaurant." See, now that doesn't sound like dog fooding. That sounds so cool. So it sounds like this is going to be all gourmet in this episode. So anyway, I'm excited to introduce you to Leela, and welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Drew. What an introduction.
Well, I don't know about that, but we're going to talk about the new campaign, relatively new campaign, and the launch of it. I'm particularly interested in it. So we're going to do that, and then at the end, we're going to get into some very important things that you, the marketer, particularly B2B marketers, can do, and ways to think about research that you may not have been thinking about. And if necessary, we may even record it as a bonus episode, so just stick with us here. So first off, I know you grew up in Scotland. Where exactly were you born?
Wow, we're really going back into back into the midst of time. So yes. I was born in Edinburgh, which is the capital city of Scotland, and spent my childhood in Edinburgh, and then moved up to a town just outside St Andrews, which most people know is the home of golf.
Exactly.
I did not grow up playing golf, alas, but I watched a lot of golf.
Well, do you still have family there?
Yes, my parents are there, and also my sister and her family. So I go back. I try and get back at least once a year, and I take my own family every other year back there.
And you're going very light on the Scottish for us, but I know you promise that we can get there if I ask the right questions. So
well, yes, possibly, but also the misconception about Scotland is that we're a land of one impenetrable language, and in fact. And this is one of the things I studied at uni, at college, was English language. And it is fascinating how many different accents and dialects there are within even a small country like Scotland, which has a population of 5 million. So I happened to grow up on the east coast of Scotland, which is sort of the equivalent of, if you think about American accents, the sort of Chicago Midwest, just sort of generally understood accent that doesn't have any strong leanings one way or another. If I had grown up on the West Coast or up in the Highlands, then I think that's when you start getting into a really thick accent. So that's the accent story. And then the other piece, of course, is that I've been in the States now for 20 plus years. So
well, now, does it ever blow your mind to think that you went from an English major at the University of Edinburgh to being listed on Forbes as one of the top 50 CMOs, and you've spent 5+ years in tech in the Bay Area? Do you ever go, wait, how did I get here?
Frequently, yes. It's a little surreal, but I think on reflection, when you think about what marketing is, I mean, it's really the job of communicating the value your organization adds in the world, of influencing current customers, future customers, candidates, everyone, all those key stakeholders. And so a lot of it does come back to language, communication, and these have been things that I've thought about really since a very early age.
I'm with you. I love English majors. But mainly from a very specific, if you can write, you can think. And there are, the corollary is that if you can't write, you often can't think. So, all right. Now, is there something other than marketing that really inspires you?
Oh, lots of things. I mean, I probably 8 of the last 10 years, when I've been in a marketing role for about 9-10 years now. And for 8 of those years, I was at organizations or part of an organization that was focused squarely on recruiting and HR. So I spent 4.5 years at LinkedIn in their talent solutions business. And most recently, I spent about 2.5 years at an organization called Lever, which focuses on recruiting software. And I often think that if I wasn't in marketing, I would try and do something in the people industry. And I say that because I think about HR and the critical role that people teams play in helping organizations realize their full potential. And I think it has been historically one of the most underestimated roles at an organization. So I have maintained this soft spot, I would say, for recruiting and HR as part of the broader set of things that I care about.
Oh, we are going to have the best conversation right now, because you just landed in an area that I think is so important. And, I've talked to a number of CMOs, as you may know. I mean, it's well over 300. And many of them shy away from employee communications and even the whole HR area. But the mindset of a good HR person versus the mindset of a marketing person are so different. And let's face it, if employees aren't engaged, then no matter what you promise to the outside world, nothing's good is going to happen. So I love the fact that you went there. And
absolutely. In fact, Drew, I was at an IDC CMO board leadership thing yesterday, and probably 50% of the agenda was about talent management, about recruiting, about skill sets, about inspiring and motivating organizations, which is such a huge part of my role at SurveyMonkey in the areas that I focus on, both for marketing, but also if you think about the CMO's role in inspiring the broader organization, right? It comes into play there as well.
Totally with you. So let's get to the campaign, and I want to break it down. So you, for SurveyMonkey, first of all, you went public last September and you raised $180 million. That must have been exciting.
Also surreal, but yes, very exciting. I don't think I can adequately articulate how surreal it was to be standing in Times Square and looking up at this whole array of digital billboards. And we had 103 different sizes or formats, I think, of billboard up there, and see our campaigns rotating and see the celebration of the organization going public. And of course, as you said, we've been around since 1999. This has been a story that's been long in the making. And if there was a ticking clock, I sort of showed up at about 11:30 p.m. But the point being that it was an extraordinary moment, an extraordinary celebration for the brand, and a really exciting opportunity for us to talk a little bit more about who we are, what we offer, and where we're headed.
And was the IPO the launch of the Power of the Curious campaign?
We had actually come up with that with Power of the Curious a year or so prior. So okay. Our organization, before I arrived, went through a brand refresh. 7/17 is the date that people refer to, so mid-July of 2017. And as part of that, the company defined this mission of powering the curious, which is something that was one of the things that actually drew me to SurveyMonkey. I consider myself intellectually curious. I've always hired for intellectual curiosity, and there's something really delicious about this notion that with our products and solutions, we enable organizations everywhere, whether it's individuals or organizations, to measure, benchmark, and act on feedback and opinions of the stakeholders that they care about most. And if they can just listen to that feedback, if they can just show that curiosity and tap into it and act on it, that will drive their growth and their innovation. So this was a campaign or a sort of a positioning of the organization that had actually started a year earlier. And as we thought about the IPO, we really, we wanted just to continue that theme of curiosity and how people are leveraging curiosity to make a difference in the world.
Love it. Okay. We're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, I'm so curious about this campaign. You just will not believe it. Okay. So stay with us. Did you know that Renegade Thinkers Unite was ranked number 2 of the top 10 podcasts for CMOs by Crackerjack Marketing? Wow. We're really honored. Now, we couldn't do that without amazing guests, and we've had some amazing CMOs on this show, and also terrific listeners like you all. If you like what we do here, please subscribe on your favorite podcast player. That way, you'll never miss an episode. Also, as a special thanks, I'd like to send you a free ebook on Renegade Thinkers. Now, for that, just email drew@renegade.com. Now, let's get back to the show. So first of all, when you arrive to the company, there's already a campaign in place. There's an idea, if you will, for the organization. There's a temptation among new CMOs to reject what's in place. What was it about it that made you say, I think there's something really good here?
Well, a couple of things. Number one, this notion of curiosity, I think, is something that we've seen a lot of our audience lean into. As I said, curiosity I think of as something deliciously intriguing and inspiring, and I think the smartest people always display curiosity. And so the idea itself, with it having been something that drew me to the organization, I certainly wanted to explore further. The other thing is, as we think more broadly and tying this back into our talent at the organization, we had taken this notion of powering the curious and thought about, well, what is the employee value proposition? Why would someone come to work at SurveyMonkey? And we now think of the organization as the place where the curious come to grow. And I think for me, that really taps into what people are looking for in their careers and their work experience these days, is the opportunity to develop, to grow, to continue learning. And at SurveyMonkey, of course, we put a particular spin on it, which is the fact that so much of that learning can be derived from feedback. If you can just, isolate that feedback, tap into the why, and then act on it, then that's what can spur this tremendous growth and innovation. So I think there's a lot to explore in the idea of curiosity. For me, I think where we're taking that now is more squarely into the enterprise and into the business realm, because a lot of that, when organizations can really unpack curiosity and delve into that feedback, then it can have some incredibly needle moving results.
Completely agree. Now, what's interesting is that there's also sort of, to me, of course, I immediately think of the incurious world that we're living in certain things, and how destructive incuriosity could be. So I imagine that if there are people that are incurious, they're not attracted to your company. Isn't that great? It's somewhat self-selecting, right?
This is true, but I think what strikes me, if we think about curiosity in marketing, for example, and the ways in which not being curious can trip you up. Think about the last campaign that fell flat on its face, or that showed sort of an element of tone deafness to it. Chances are that the person running that campaign or devising that campaign didn't take the time to go test that idea, to go get feedback from the masses or their target audience to confirm that it would resonate. And frankly, in this day and age, I don't think there's an excuse for that. You can run any sort of A/B test or concept test through a platform like SurveyMonkey. We can hook you up with what we call SurveyMonkey Audience, which is this neutral panel of individuals, and you can target within that quite specifically. And you can get almost instantaneous read on how your campaign is going to be perceived, or which of two ideas would resonate more strongly. And so I would encourage, for marketers in particular, I would encourage them to be curious and make sure that no matter how brilliant you think your idea is, you take the time to go out to pressure test it, to get feedback, to get data that will help to confirm that you're on the right track.
Totally agree with all of that. I'm always surprised when a new campaign launches. And there have been times we've sort of changed where we were as an agency, but there were, when we were doing almost exclusively social media, a big agency would launch a campaign. We could tell in 24 hours that the campaign was dying because the feedback was, 100 to 1 negative. And we just thought, how could you have not tested that in advance? So, yeah, I mean, you can really save some really disastrous situations that you didn't anticipate. Now, I'm curious about, you talked about how important this idea was internally. What kinds of, and that you wanted to build a culture of curiosity. How have you brought that to life internally? What kinds of actions, things have you done that have made and sort of fed the curiosity beast in your organization?
Yeah. So, and this is where the eating in your own restaurant piece definitely comes into play, Drew. And just as an aside, I can't take credit for that particular variant of the dog food thing. I actually credit Jeff Weiner with that. I think he was the one who pointed out, if you're calling your product dog food, it doesn't send a great message to the market.
Exactly.
And if you're drinking champagne, that probably doesn't send a great message to the market either about how you run your business and where your priorities are. So, eating in a restaurant sort of to me is sort of the middle ground. It implies a sense of sort of fiscal responsibility and the potential for it to be delightful as well. So politically
correct. Yes, you covered all the bases there. Okay, so
indeed. So how do we eat in our own restaurant? I think is your question. So, and I see it in so many ways here at SurveyMonkey. So we're probably guilty, if it's possible, of sometimes gathering almost too much feedback. There are certainly plenty of instances on a monthly basis where we leverage our own technology and our own survey platform to get needle-moving feedback. So one example would be coming back to the employee piece. We use our own technology to measure employee engagement and better understand where are the areas of opportunity for us to continue making SurveyMonkey a fantastic place to work and the kind of culture where every employee can feel like they belong, like they can bring their best selves to work, and that they really are a truly part of something. And so we do that in a couple of ways. We have an ongoing pulse survey that we run through our tool, SurveyMonkey Engage, which takes the pulse quite regularly with short surveys and then has a longer survey twice a year. We also run a regular inclusion and belonging survey to delve specifically into how much our employees feel like they do belong to something. So that's sort of on the broader base, and then every leader here, including myself and the leaders on my team, will be given the scores for their organization to better understand how they stack up against the broader org, where the opportunities are, where they're ahead, where they've got more work to do. So that's sort of a fundamental way that we actually think about the health of our overall organization and our talent base, because our people are obviously so important in us delivering on our promises out to the market. And then, of course, employee feedback's one large use case for SurveyMonkey. Another one is in gathering customer feedback and really understanding how customers are feeling about the products and the services that we provide, where our opportunities are for improvement. And so we use our own product frequently to measure Net Promoter Score, and both in terms of transactions with our customer operations group, as well as just relationally, how are they thinking about SurveyMonkey? And so that's a regular pulse that we check using our own SurveyMonkey CX product. We additionally use surveys for everything you can think of, from designing our new headquarters building, a lot of which was fueled by thinking on what employees would like to see in their place of work, to shaping some of our HR strategies. So we recently rolled out vendor benefits in response to feedback from the organization that people who walk the hallways every day and feel like part of the team, but happen to work for third-party contractors, whether it's janitorial services or kitchen staff and so forth, people on the SurveyMonkey team wanted to see them get the same level of benefits. And so we actually made the decision to invest in delivering more benefits that were more in line with our own employees, full-time employees' benefits. And that idea came directly from the employee base. And so we're constantly listening for ways to improve our offerings, our organization through our survey technology.
Well, it must be working, because I did notice that SurveyMonkey was named the best Workplaces and Technology by Great Places to Work and Fortune in 2019. So got some good things going there. In addition to using your tools, because I think that's great, and that's really smart, and it makes sense because everybody sort of sees it, feels it, lives the brand there. I'm just thinking back of a conversation I had with Diana O'Brien, the global CMO of Deloitte, and she talked about Deloitte University, where they were teaching things like they literally taught empathy and leadership, and I was thinking that in some ways you could teach curiosity, which is, it's a funny, right? Because, I mean, there are ways of, particularly for dealing with inclusion and belonging, and there's ways to ask questions that could be more sensitive than others. And so, because, we all have we could go back to our childish wonder and just say, why? Well, right? But I imagine there's something you could actually train and teach and make and sort of see when you're no longer curious about something.
Absolutely. And in fact, that's where our technology is headed. Because if you think about everything that SurveyMonkey has seen and experienced in the course of 19 plus years in business, we've had over 47 billion questions answered on our platform. We still have over 2 million people a day take a survey, 20 million questions answered daily. There's a tremendous amount of activity and data flowing through our systems. And what we've been able to do is actually take our ongoing learnings and use machine learning to help those who are putting together the next generation of surveys to do that in the most effective way possible. And so that led to us developing a feature called SurveyMonkey Genius, which whenever you're creating a survey in SurveyMonkey, you'll see that we actually now score it at the end of the survey. We give you a sense of what the completion rate might be. We give you a percentage of, how much have you got this right? And we'll even point out opportunities to improve that survey. And the point of improving the survey is to get the best possible data and to increase the likelihood of you getting the respondents to actually complete it. Brilliant. So that's one very concrete way that we've taken this survey expertise and packaged it into something that every single SurveyMonkey user can now benefit from. And then
we need to take a quick break. We need to take a break. This is all really interesting. Take a quick break, and then we'll come right back.
You've been listening to another great interview on Renegade Thinkers Unite with Drew Neiser. But the value doesn't end there. As a listener, you can download a free ebook from Drew, Renegade Thinkers, interviews with 11 trailblazing CMOs any business can learn from. Top marketing thought leaders and proven executives from Time Warner, American Express, and Chico's, and others. Get your free copy at renegadethinkersunite.com/ebook. For listeners only, at renegadethinkersunite.com/ebook.
Okay, so you were talking about how you had this Genius product that helped score the survey. What else are you doing?
Yeah, a couple of things. So first of all, in marketing, we're joined at the hip with our research team here at SurveyMonkey. We're blessed with having a fantastic team of in-house researchers who are experts in developing methodologies and question types and making sure that responses are, people are using the optimal set of responses options to get the data they need. And so that shows up in a couple of ways. In our core survey platform, as you are typing in a question, we will read ahead and anticipate where you're going with that and actually suggest a question structure, suggest the answer set that you might want to offer, suggest the type of response that you might want to gather, whether that's open-ended or multiple choice or what have you. So that's one thing. And then the other thing is, as we have gone deeper into building these purpose-built solutions that cater to some of the biggest use cases and ways in which we see our companies globally using SurveyMonkey, some of those products have their own methodology actually built into the product. And this is where having a research team that can really kick the tires on a rigorous methodology will really help organizations using those tools. And going back to the HR examples that I gave earlier, you're absolutely right. As much as organizations today know that they want to create a workplace where everyone can belong, many just don't have the first clue where to start. What questions to ask? How do you actually get to the right responses or the right information to truly evaluate whether you've built an inclusive workplace. So knowing that's a challenge, we partnered with some very smart people at Stanford and also our own research team in a group called Paradigm to create a belonging inclusion template that any organization can deploy tomorrow if they want to internally, with a view of taking out to their workforce a rigorously tested methodology that will truly help them understand how they are faring when we think about the true drivers of belonging and inclusion.
Really cool. Boy, I have a lot of questions for you that this just keeps inspiring. I want to go back to the launch event for a moment, because that was kind of a spectacular moment. You did, I noticed you gathered some celebrities. You really did, that was sort of a big crescendo with the IPO. When you think about your overall marketing for SurveyMonkey, because you have, obviously there's big clients and lots of, nonprofit organizations. You have a massive breadth of customers. What are sort of the big drivers for your marketing right now?
Yeah, it's a good question. So just on the IPO campaign itself, just to fill in gaps for folks who might be listening, we made the decision to partner with 4 influencers / celebrities out there. And I think, one of the really inspiring and interesting things about curiosity is it is self-defined, right? We're all curious about different things. And so what we decided to do was work with these 4 celebrities and influencers. You may have heard of Serena Williams, for example, or Ariana Huffington. Serena's fantastic, by the way. She's just a wonderful human being, and she's very deeply passionate about a number of things, including being a working mother. And so as we worked with her and her team on our IPO campaign, the idea was to come up with a survey, a very concise survey, and I think it was 3 to 5 questions, where Serena would ask questions out into the outside world to engage different audiences in the topic that she cared about. For Serena, the topic was being a working mother, for a working parent rather. For Ariana, she wanted to focus on whether people are beginning to feel burned out, right? Is their work life in harmony or not? We also worked with Draymond Green from the Warriors, who's known for being quite outspoken on the court, and his questions tied into whether people feel like they can speak up in the workplace, or do they not think it's worth it, or are they afraid to do so for some reason? And then last but not least, Jeff Weiner, the CEO of LinkedIn, and his questions were all about whether people had identified their dream job. And that's something he's very, very passionate about. And of course, the whole value proposition behind LinkedIn ties in with that. And so what we did was we developed these concise short surveys with each influencer, and then ran them across billboards, out through email, across our platform, across social media and so forth, to enable the world basically to engage with these influencers and provide their points of view, their feedback around how they were, their reactions to these questions. So that was putting curiosity at the heart of the campaign and tapping into the topics that inspire the most curiosity in the influencers that we worked with.
And how did you measure? How to work out? How did you measure the success as far as you were concerned of that effort? Yeah,
so we looked at the volume of responses. We had a tremendous engagement with the surveys themselves. We had well over 130,000 responses to the surveys, and then we could turn around and actually share that content back out with the world to better understand how people had reacted to these questions around being a working parent, or how, whether they had identified their dream job, whether they felt like they were even in it today. So it generated a lot of conversation just based on the content and the ideas that surfaced from those surveys. And the good news, I think, for any marketer is you can do that every day of the week if you want, using a platform like SurveyMonkey. And this is where I think there's tremendous power in research as a source of original content, where really it's about coming up with the idea that you want to test or tap into and running that survey, whether it's to your customers or audiences that or whether you need to come to a service like us and find that third party panel. But it really is about bringing the ideas to market and exploring things that tie in with the value that you provide in the world, and having something interesting to say based on that.
Very cool. Okay. I noticed that you also have a curiosity conference, or you did, in November.
Yeah, so
Well,
this was a first for us,
uh-huh.
and it's part of, you had asked the question, Drew, around sort of how are we thinking about marketing going forward. And one of the other things that drew me to SurveyMonkey was having used SurveyMonkey and loved SurveyMonkey as a marketer for a period of 8 or 9 years. When I started talking to SurveyMonkey, I realized that I only understood the tip of the iceberg, in that I had been using SurveyMonkey's self-serve, easy to use, powerful individual user version. And meanwhile, it turns out that we've got this whole host of business solutions and also an enterprise platform that companies are increasingly turning to, so that they can run business critical research and make business critical decisions based on feedback that is available to the right people in the organization. So as we go forward, you're probably going to see and hear us dialing up that conversation around the use of SurveyMonkey for business, how we're helping organizations drive growth and innovation. And so what we did in November was we held our first virtual conference, which we called Curiosity Conference or Curiosity Con. And the idea was to showcase a set of leaders, some of them customers, others influencers, who are exploring different ways in which feedback can have impact at the organization. And so
it feels like it could be bigger.
Yes.
In this sense, not just because if we could create a world of more curious people, we could solve a lot of the world's problems.
Yes, I absolutely agree. And I think this was the conference itself went really well. I think the reaction was incredibly positive. And if anything, it just inspired us, to your point, to probably blow that idea out going forward.
Okay, so I'm going to wrap up or try to wrap up some of this. So first of all, you have this incredibly powerful idea. I would describe this language, Power the Curiosity, as a purpose-driven story statement. I mean, it really is. It's got a lot going for it. I hear how that could be inspirational to employees, obviously to customers. You enable their curiosity, and for prospects, hey, it would be a good idea if you were a little bit more curious on these areas. So I can see how this thing could just absolutely work all the way around. Are there any lessons that you've learned as you've rolled this idea out in the various sort of tentacles of the idea, things that you think were instructive or surprising?
Well, I mean, the one thing I will say is we do have the benefit of having quite a well-known brand, where our aided brand awareness is really quite high in the scheme of things. But I think for me, the learning has been that there's a difference between brand awareness and true brand understanding. And so as we look at the next 12 to 18 months, my course, the course that I'm plotting for my organization is for us to really extend people's understanding of the power of SurveyMonkey. It's one thing to be seen as sort of easy to use, self-serve, really easy to get up and running. And those things remain true, right? We've built consumer-grade technology that is used at over 600,000 organizations globally. We have over 16 million active users using our platform. So it's definitely used widely. But the gap that we have to close is in helping people understand the application and the criticality of the feedback that's gathered through a tool like SurveyMonkey for the enterprise, for broader business. So it's sort of I wouldn't trade our brand love and our brand awareness for anything, but we do have our work cut out, and there's a big opportunity for us that I'm very excited about to really further that understanding.
Yeah, I can see that. And it's exactly right. You have this incredible awareness, as I suspected everybody who's listening has heard of you and probably taken a survey, if not fielded one. But this sort of, as you move up the sort of value chain and really want to be the organization that brings curiosity to the world in a way that, helps nonprofits and profits, sort of communicate better, you have some work to do. And to me, the opportunity will be to do things where you are leading a conversation. In some ways, you could take a stand. You could be the company that says, "Incurious is a dead end for the world."
Yeah.
Right? Incuriosity is really where we get into all of our problems. And we've seen it over and over again. So I'm excited for you. I think you're really at a very interesting juncture for your organization. Gosh, this must be a fun situation because you've got a solid base, and now it's just how high is up.
Yeah, and you know what? The most fun thing of all for me, Drew, is that the people who are in the best position to tell this story are the customers and the companies that are experiencing this benefit, this growth, this innovation, this upside from using SurveyMonkey on a daily basis. And we are so early in our journey of really surfacing and celebrating and elevating those customers. So I definitely plan to tap into and be inspired by a lot of what we're seeing, hearing, learning from customers as they share back with us about their successes that are powered by SurveyMonkey.
There you go. So, this is the framework that my next book is all about. It's like, get your employees on board, get those customers on board, get them celebrating your product and helping them inform how you do it. And then finally, the prospects will just come on board because there's so much goodwill out there. All right. This has been awesome. For all the listeners, I want you to know that we're gonna stop this episode here, and then we're gonna record about a 20-minute how to do your surveys better tutorial. So, and you'll be able to find that on renegade.com. And if any other places come up, just come back to renegade.com or some other, maybe even look for it on SurveyMonkey at some point. So with that, maybe we should get SurveyMonkey to put out a survey on the podcast itself, but that's a dangerous thought. All right. So first of all, Leela, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Drew. It's been a pleasure.
And to all the listeners out there, thank you as always. Don't forget to share. I guess in terms of wishes, may you have the blessing of curiosity every day of your life. I think it's been proven that curiosity will not only keep you younger, but perhaps help you live into your golden years in a very happy way. So all good. And until next week, keep those renegade thinking caps on and strong.
This has been Renegade Thinkers Unite, but it doesn't end there. Just go to renegadethinkersunite.com for more and subscribe to the show. That way, you'll never miss an episode. We'll talk with you next time on Renegade Thinkers Unite.